Hello and welcome to episode 72 of Learn, Do, Become Radio. Today's podcast was actually recorded 2 years ago. The file had some issues and I didn't think it was going to work, but our team discovered how to do it. And so today we're bringing you an awesome interview that Eric and I had with Chris Hogan. The awesome thing, though, about bringing back a podcast that we recorded 2 years ago is we actually started implementing what we learned from Chris. And so now I have 2 years of experience to share as a little intro to this. So if you haven't heard of Chris Hogan before, we first heard him speak at a Dave Ramsey Smart Conference. He's amazing. He's one of the Ramsey personalities. He teaches about retirement, and he is incredibly inspiring. And at Learn to Become, we talk a lot about how to organize, how to use your STEP Command Central to get rid of all the chaos and clutter, and how to get a handle on all of the details of life. But we also are talking more about life architecture. That's a program that's hopefully going to be coming in 2020. We're working on it right now. But the goal is to help you to actually create a plan and a blueprint for your life so you feel excited about moving forward in a way that really is going to get you the results that you're looking for. It doesn't matter if you're organized if you have no idea where you're going. We want to get organized so we can live that life that we can't wait to wake up and to experience every single day. Now, when I was checking with the Dave Ramsey Corporation and asking, hey, what could Chris talk about? One of the suggestions that they made was to talk about meetings with your spouse. And here's what they said. It's so easy to stress about retirement. If you're married, you and your spouse need to make retirement decisions together, and that includes how much you save each month and where you invest that money. To do that, though, you first need to dream together to make sure you're headed in the right direction, and that means sitting down weekly, monthly, etc., and going over your dreams, hopes, and then allowing you to think beyond the years when the kids are at home. All right, just this morning, Eric and I had a little dream meeting. We sat down and started talking about where do we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How are things going in our business? What do we want our days to look like? What are we going to do so that as we get older, we're actually going to be in a really solid position where we can then live our lives giving to charity and serving the broader world and feeling excited about our lives rather than just trying to make ends meet, right? And so we invited Chris to have this conversation with us, and it is powerful. He is amazing. Here are just a few stats, though, to get you excited about it. Well, maybe it will kind of discourage you a little bit, but hopefully get you excited to listen. But first of all, just some stats, like a third of couples don't save at all. 23% are not aware of how much their partner is saving. 30% of couples don't talk to each other about how much they need to retire. 2 in 5 have lied or they've hid information from a partner about money. And 21% are not aware of the total value of their accounts. I mean, that's just a few stats. And I want you to think about your own life. How excited are you right now for retirement? How clear are you on how much money you need, how much money you have, how you're going to save? And Eric actually has a lot to offer in this area that we'll be discussing more in Life Architecture and in our Arise membership that we're working towards. But building a STEP Command Central too, tying it back to what we do a lot of right around here, is helping you to create these routines where you are having these conversations, regular meetings that you can have with your spouse. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in now to the podcast, a little blast from the past. Go enjoy this interview, and then I will catch you on the other side. Okay, enjoy. All right, thank you so much, Chris, for being here with us today at Learn, Do, Become Radio.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I am sitting here with my husband, Eric.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to be talking about spouse dream dates and how to prepare for retirement. And I need to admit, I've been a little bit nervous about this because while I'm good at saving money and being careful where I spend, when I start talking about investing and looking too far into the future, sometimes I start feeling a little stressed and I'd rather just not think about it. And as I've talked with people in our community, I know that we have a lot of community members who have had a lot of things just hit them, whether it's been divorce or bankruptcy or illness. And they just feel like, thinking so far into the future, that's so stressful given everything that's on my plate right now. So today, and my husband, Eric, is way better at this. He's the one who's always planning and preparing and I'm excited to be able to be a better partner to him, and excited to be able to talk today about how we can actually create a vision and feel hopeful and know how to get started when it comes to preparing for retirement.
Yeah, we're actually really excited to hear from Chris today. We've heard him speak on a couple different occasions, and he's just an amazing speaker, very talented, very knowledgeable. He shared some amazing and powerful stories in one of the events we were at, and so I think it really is kind of powerful to realize that there are so many people out there who may be listening that, I feel like they haven't done enough to be able to start preparing for retirement. But I think one of the things that Chris's takeaway was that it's never too late to start. There are always things that you can do. And working together as a couple, if you're married, or individually if you're single, there's always something you can do to make yourself better prepared.
So take it away, Chris.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And you really hit on something that is very truthful. People have life going on. And there are people out there that are finding themselves rebounding from either starting over or walking through a very difficult time financially. But my goal with all of this and writing the book Retire Inspired was to help people start to look at this a little bit different. Even though, yes, there is a lot of information out there and we can all get confused, the one thing that we absolutely need to be truthful on and real about is that we all have things that we want to accomplish for ourselves and for the people that we love the most. And so because of that, we have to begin to push through and understand we've got some opportunities in front of us. And what you want to do is take the right kinds of steps, get the right people around you, because you don't have to know it all. For example, I had a car issue just a couple months ago, and my vehicle, the little check engine light comes on, and we always try to ignore that light. We try to hope that it'll just fix itself, but it doesn't. And so essentially that check engine light is an alert that there's a problem with the engine that could be small or big, but ultimately you have to do something about it. And I think for us with our retirement planning, a lot of times we have that check engine light on, but we don't we want to just ignore it and hope it goes away. But ultimately we know if we don't go in and get it fixed and deal with it, ultimately we could end up spending more or having more regret later.
Oh, you're so smart. And I love that. And maybe could you start out sharing some of these statistics for us to actually see what the landscape looks like out there? Because it actually was really shocking for me when I reviewed those.
Yes. Well, according to statistics out there, 52% of American workers, that's all people here in America, have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. I mean, that's over half, less than 10 grand. And then also you start to look at this, 76% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. That means if one check doesn't show up, they now have what's called a financial situation. And so beginning to look at this and you see this, you understand this money thing is very real. There is a major epidemic. And what we have to do is begin to take steps in the right direction to help to try to put a plan in place so we can feel better and know what it is we're working toward.
And do you feel like most people think that just the government's going to take care of them? Or what do you think? They'll just figure it out later? What do you think is the reason why people don't take this more seriously?
Yeah, April, that's a great question. And literally about 4 years ago, when I started diving into this and researching it, I found an alarming high percentage of people, and by that I'm talking about 70 to 80% of people, thought that the government was going to take care of them, that it was going to be enough. And by government taking care of, I'm talking about Social Security. And so I dug into this and realized now, Social Security, your payouts based on how much you pay in. And on any job you're working, they're taking money out for Social Security each and every paycheck. But the average payout, as I did my research, was around $16,000 a year on average, which equates to around $1,333 a month. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I researched the average mortgage payment, and it's hovering around $1,200 to $1,400.
Yeah.
The average new car payment around $560. The average used car payment's around $470. And I realized, oh my, if people don't wake up and get serious about this, the average payout won't be enough to cover a mortgage and a car payment, let alone groceries.
Let alone the medical costs of people aging and their population, medical care and prescriptions and things of that nature. I mean, just to kind of speak to that point, I think many of us in our audience might be helping to manage the care, the needs of an aging parent. I know April and I are both in that category. And as I've worked with my dad, I think the numbers you've given on Social Security are pretty much spot on. And just to look at the type of care needs and just lifestyle activities that people want to have in retirement, looking at the government plan, while helpful, is absolutely not going to be enough for probably any American out there. One of the things I was just going to touch on is I loved how you said, it's the majority of people that have less than $10,000 set aside right now for retirement, which I hope maybe gives our audience, our community, a lot of hope, because with a few small steps or a minor adjustment here and there, they could build past that $10,000 pretty quickly and be now in the minority, helping to make it the majority and kind of helping themselves move in a better direction. So we're excited to be able to get some ideas and tips from you on how to best do that.
Yeah, so where should we start? Let's go ahead.
Well, I would say this. I mean, it's one of those things, Eric, you point out. You're absolutely right. As you start to deal with parents that are aging, I think it's important for us to get knowledgeable so we're better suited to be able to help our parents. Right. It's literally like being on an airplane. You all know I travel all around the country. I live in airports. Mm-hmm. But one time I was sitting on a plane a few years ago, and they told us, hey, in the event of a loss of oxygen, your oxygen mask will drop. And they said a phrase that stuck with me: be sure to secure your mask first before you try to help others.
Right.
And the analogy there is so you can be coherent enough to be able to assist. And I think that same parallel can be drawn with retirement. It's so important that we put our plan in place first so we gain knowledge and we're able to assist our parents or our siblings and friends later.
Right. I think actually the experience we have trying to do the best we can with and for our parents provides almost a cautionary tale, allows us to learn some of the lessons we need and understand how some of the government structures and other structures are set up out there, so that not only can we try to do better with our parents, but it helps us realize the absolute need for preparation now for ourselves and for our children and those who follow.
Yes. And so walking through this, you guys, I wanted to talk to you about the importance of having some spousal meetings. Now, that means if you're married, I'm talking about your spouse. If you're single or newly single, I want you to find an accountability partner, someone that loves you, wants you to be successful. And so when I talk about spouse or accountability partner, that would be your person. But here's the thing. When you have these meetings, I have found that it can reduce stress because there are some alarming statistics out there. For example, a third of couples don't save anything at all. 23% of couples aren't aware of how much their partner is saving. 30% of couples don't talk to each other about how much they're going to need to retire. And then 2 in 5 have lied or hid information from a partner about money. And finally, get this, 21% of married couples are unaware of the total value of the 401k accounts for each other.
Wow. I was going to say, I think that just one of the things, maybe the best place to start then, is just that open, clear, and stress-free communication, no matter where you are, where you have been in your life.
It's not about blaming.
Yeah, it's not about blaming. Just trying to
let's
start figuring out where we are from here, whether it's with a spouse or with that kind of accountability partner. And I love something that we talked about it before, maybe this idea of sitting down and having like this chance to communicate or having these dream dates or whatnot. Now, as you talk about dream dates or kind of those meetings are going to look like, dream dates probably don't mean like you whisk your spouse or significant other off to like Beverly Hills or New York City for some amazing getaway. Maybe tell us what the idea about kind of these dream dates or these meetings, what does it look like?
Yeah. Well, literally what I'm talking about here is if you have kids, get them in bed. You don't have to go anywhere. You can be sitting at your couch or at your dining room table. And literally what I'd love for people to do is to have a conversation about the things they would love to be able to do later in life. The things that you'd want to do if money weren't an issue and time weren't an issue. And the rationale behind that is this. If we can get couples to connect and understand what the desires of each other, and then later begin to work a tactical plan to move you in that direction, what we've done is we've put two people in alignment on goals as well as the methodology to help reach that goal. And so a couple in a rowboat rowing in the same direction at the same speed with the same intensity, they're going to reach the goal faster than a couple that's not in unison, that's rowing all over the place.
That's a great analogy.
Well, when you're talking about sharing your goals and dreams, regardless of your current income or how much money you have right now, let's just dream together. Do you sometimes feel that couples are hesitant to dream together because they're sitting on a ratty old couch? They feel like, I don't have any money, and they feel like dreaming is just setting themselves up for failure.
Mortgage and debt. They just feel like, oh, we're buried under too much. Is that one of the things that prevents them?
It does, and the reason why is our current reality can also, be that thing that serves as a wake up call for us to get more serious. But no, it is difficult, and it's more difficult to dream, especially if you're like you all are talking about. You've got bills to pay, you've got kids to take care of, you've got maybe even parents to take care of. You have all this life going on, but the thing that I found is that the clock never stops. We're either getting better or getting worse. I had a football coach tell me that when I was a freshman in college, and I'll never forget it. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. Nothing stays the same. And so what I want people to do is that dream, it takes some time to find it. A lot of times we're so busy with things buzzing, ringing, and dinging. We've lost track of that dream because we're so focused on the reality. But I think tapping into that makes us vulnerable, helps us to communicate, and helps our spouse to begin to understand just how important these things are to us and why it matters so much.
I think that's a great point. I think also, like you said, the current conditions can actually be a great motivator, because hopefully a conversation like this and other things people might come across give them the hope and the encouragement. There are people out there who are able to do this regardless of the situation they're starting from. But like you said, it's just a matter of making that decision that wherever you're at, we're going to have this conversation. We're going to start figuring out, like you said, dream the vision, set that out. Then you can start putting the tactical plans together, the little steps here and there to start moving in the direction of that dream.
Yeah, and just to clarify, sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
Just to clarify, once you have actually discussed your dreams, and if you are feeling hesitant about talking about finances because you feel a little bit like you might be the blind leading the blind, let's say that both partners just really aren't aware of what's happening financially. What are some of the tools or resources that they could be using? Is this where your book can help them as they want to walk through some of these steps?
Well, the book will definitely help, because what I did was I wrote that as a way of like coaching people writing their living room. I was a financial coach when I first started with Dave, so I've been here for 12 years, and I would sit with people for 2 hours to walk them through the whole process. Well, I can't do that for everybody in the United States, but what I wanted was to help people wake up and literally, April and Eric, start to make a decision. For example, what we have to do is look at and understand that where we are right now does not have to be where we end up. Okay, where we are right now can be a start point, or it can be a fine-tuning point where we start to make some small tweaks or some steps forward. And doing that, what will happen is it starts to move us down the path. And so literally, as people start to look, if it is, say both spouses, neither one of them are very well good with money, well, then what I'd want to encourage them to do is to get some information. Either sit down with a financial coach, go meet with an investment professional. Let's start to get answers so we can gain understanding. And then once you understand, you can begin to decide. And after you decide, now you can begin to plan.
So I think that's really helpful. And then, Chris, we go through this conversation. By all means, if there are resources or things that you would like to share with our listening audience, our community, either things you prepared or things from the Ramsey Group and things like that, by all means, feel free, because, we've been listening to Dave for years. A lot of sound advice has come out of him and all the great people that he's surrounded himself by. So by all means, feel free to point people in the direction, or if there's a good way for people to find, a financial planner or an advisor that's qualified, that's reputable. I'm sure a lot of people, maybe they hesitate because they feel like, I don't know which steps to take or which direction to go confidently without being misled or make mistakes.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you this. Nobody wants to be misled. Nobody wants to get bad information. So, Eric, thank you for that. I would tell people this. If you are just waking up and you're looking and you understand where I am now is not where I want to be and this money stuff is confusing, the absolute best resource out there to get is Dave's Total Money Makeover. That's a book that he wrote in 2004. It's been on the bestseller list for many, many years, and it is a great explanation and walkthrough. So the Total Money Makeover is that book. And I'm going to tell you another good resource for people, because budgeting is the key. Some people hear that word and they break out into hives, but ultimately what we have to do is understand how much money is coming in and what does it take for us to keep our doors open and our homes and functional week in, week out, month in, month out. And so budgeting is crucial. And we developed a budgeting tool. It's free. It's called Every Dollar, because we want you to give every dollar a name and a destination. And so those are two fantastic resources that people can plug into and truly begin to gain understanding. If you are someone that you kind of know what you're wanting and you've got the basics down, and then that's where my book, Retire Inspired, will help you start to look longer range and start to plan with confidence.
That's wonderful. Yeah, awesome resources. I was going to say, Total Money Makeover, the principles there are every bit as relevant today as they were 13 years ago and will be 20 years from now. So appreciate you mentioning all of those resources for our community.
Yes. And so what I would say is this, when you're doing the dream meeting, I think the biggest thing we have to do is understand that when you're listening to your spouse, listen. Like listen to them, ask questions to help you understand what it is they'd love to do. It's not a time to judge. Okay, so don't judge during the dream date. We're just hearing from each other. And so take 10 or 15 minutes to really talk about it. It can take some time to really kind of tap into that dream again. But once you all know each other's dreams, then I would encourage you as a couple to sit down and make a list of what are the top 5 to 10 things we want to do as a couple. And what I mean by that is maybe you want to spend time with family. You may want to travel. You may want to do some charity work or mission work. You may want to start a side business. Whatever that is, I want you to get that down on paper because that's going to become your why. You're going to be willing to do the things that are necessary because this thing or these list of things are important to you.
I love that. And I love how you're encouraging us to not try to do everything in the world, but coming up with a top 5. I think that feels really doable.
Absolutely.
And of course, I know you mentioned there's going to be some compromise there. You might have someone who really feels strongly about one thing and someone else really doesn't want that. But I think a lot of times, Eric and I have found that when we have differing opinions, but we really do try to ask questions like you mentioned, we're able to understand kind of what's at the root of our desires. And then we're able to come up with some creative alternative that's even better.
Well, this is actually... Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just going to say, see, when you all do that, what you're doing is you're supporting each other. And in life, that's ultimately what we're looking for. We want to be supported, we want to be believed in, and we want to be cheered on. And so I think it's fantastic that you all take the time to do that so you gain understanding and go, you know what? My spouse matters to me. They've had my back. They cheer for me. I want to cheer for them. So I'm willing to dive into this budget and make some tweaks or start the 401k because I really want them or him to be able to do the things they want to do. And it should be vice versa. And when you have that, what you end up finding, when you gain understanding, you end up having this cyclical type of support for each other. And when each of you are winning, the family's winning.
Absolutely. I was going to say that very thing, to point out to all our community listening that there is no wrong way to do this or no wrong way to start because starting in some way is better than doing nothing at all. And one of the points I think you kind of brought up earlier, and I think we're all kind of maybe in alignment on this, but what we do here, we want this actually to be the bottom line purpose is to strengthen marriage and family. So as you start becoming better able to communicate, and April and I have been working on this for the last 3 to 5 years, hopefully we've been getting better at it, but we found that it does strengthen your marriage, it strengthens your family relationships and what you're able to do in life.
It really, really does. And so as people start with that dream, I want to move them to the next step, which is so important. And that is, as you understand your dream and you see your reality, I think once you've tapped into the dream, you know what you'd like to do. You're aware of your reality, so you know where you are. So in between the dream and the reality is what I call the gap. And that gap is where we have to make a decision. For example, do you know the definition of insanity?
Is it trying to do the same thing or trying to get different results by doing the same thing over and over again?
That's exactly right. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Yep. And so what we don't want to do is stand in our reality and know our dreams and say, I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to keep doing the same thing over and over. And that's not what we want. What we want to do is to make some decisions about what's going to get us there. So my second tip, after the dream, the next thing I want you to do as a couple is be willing to compromise. Like literally that word compromise. They should actually, if you look up marriage in the dictionary, there's compromise and negotiation, I think, are the two definitions. Because you're going to have different dreams, but you can incorporate both of your dreams in your retirement plan. So be open and honest with your communication. Be sure that the dream gets you both excited or you're going to lose momentum. And then I want you to do one more thing. Work together to understand what it is you can improve on and where we need to gain traction.
Yeah. Love that. And I think that middle point you kind of shared there, make sure the dream excites both of you, because if you're not both invested, you're not both excited in something, it's true of anything in life. It will lose momentum, it'll wane, and you'll kind of fall off. But if both of you really have that fire burning in your belly to really achieve that vision that you've collectively made together, then nothing's going to stop you.
Well, and it's fun to actually start talking about some of it, because it was even just last week, Eric was talking about how he had this idea to create a specific type of charitable foundation. And as he started explaining that, I said, did you know that I outlined almost that exact same thing when I was a freshman in college? I remember sitting in my dorm room and I'd outlined it. I had a name for it. I had it all planned out. And Eric said, why did you never tell me about
this? Well, and they're
this?
very similar in their structure and their purpose. So clearly we're really good at communicating over 19 years of marriage.
Well, it was so funny.
I had never heard that story of
He
hers.
didn't even know. And I'm like, I had the whole thing fleshed out. It was after I'd read Man's Search for Meaning and The Hiding Place. And I thought, I want to create something beautiful. And what's so fun is that I had been focusing on the how and the what to create. And Eric had been focusing on how to financially fund it. And so it was so fun that as we thought, hey, we actually have these dreams we've never talked about in almost 20 years.
They line up beautifully. But maybe it's a little opportunity for those good spouses out there. Maybe the husband's in the picture. Your wife is probably ahead of you on the game, and it just takes you 19 years to catch up. There's always
Well, I can tell you this, as you all have pointed out, this dream date thing is not something that you're going to do once and never do again. Right. I want to encourage you, because as you start to have that first conversation, what's going to happen is you're going to start to think, you're going to start to reconnect with some of those things that are in your heart that may be buried down in there a little bit. And so feel free to reconnect every couple weeks to sit down and say, you know what, I've been thinking, and there's something else I wanted to do, kind of like you all did. Yeah, and what that does is it keeps the communication ongoing, keeps things evolving, and it keeps people connected to the plan.
Absolutely. And I think just like a corollary I'd share with our Learn to Become community is, April and I talk about a concept that we've kind of designed as part of a life architecture. But a thing that I've really enjoyed doing is kind of putting together what I call a 50-year plan. And it could be a shorter plan if you're a little older in life. But really looking at in the major milestones, the experiences, the relationships you want to have. So I think it lines up beautifully with this dream date or the discussion of the vision, because we really want to encourage our community to sit back and design and architect the life that you really want for yourself, because as you have that picture, that becomes part of that motivation, right? What inspires you. And that's going to help you and your spouse or your whole family kind of get behind this idea of, making some of the changes earlier on in life that might be a little bit painful, a little bit more challenging, to be a little more fiscally responsible. But as you do that, you'll start to see the resources and the opportunity to come into focus to do those things you've dreamed about.
You really will. And that can come in many areas. You may sit down and come up with that plan for your career, for your family, for your kids, for your community, whatever that looks like. But putting those things down, those are the things that get us up out of bed. Right. I found I am motivated. When I get up, I love what I do. I don't call it work. I call it I'm doing what I'm designed to do. And I think if we can get more people tapped into understanding, hey, I may not be working the job that I absolutely love, but I want them to know, hey, let's earn the right to be able to move on, acquire the skills that are necessary, get the certification. Just understand you're not stuck. You just stopped. And so the good thing is that I have an opportunity to either grow forward or move forward, but I've got to take steps that move me in that direction.
Love that. Okay, so then can we talk a little bit about the saving and how it actually happens and how we actually make this money appear? Because I think we get excited about the dreams and we think, okay, I'm going to have these conversations. And then you look at the bills coming in and
I think
need
in human nature, we
get
more excited about spending and consuming and having than we do about saving and setting aside and planning.
Yes.
So how do we make that fun?
Well, I think the big thing is to sit down and start to understand you're working hard to bring this money in. Now I want you to be a CEO. And by that, I mean a chief everything officer for your dreams. I want you to be a money boss. I want you to start to boss your money around, tell it where to go, when it's allowed to leave, and the expected arrival date. And by doing that, what happens is we understand we've got more control over our money than we're aware of. We just have to rein in our habits and start to make more clear decisions. And so sitting down and looking at, go back, get your bank statements for the last couple months, sit down and look and track where your money is going. Obviously, you'll be able to find it. It's restaurants, the mall, you got all these things, and really start to look at the total amount. That was the wake-up call for me years ago before I had kids. I looked at the bank statement and I really got frustrated because I realized as I was looking at the money I was spending, I was making other people rich instead of building my own wealth. That allowed me to make some decisions. It doesn't mean I stopped eating out or stopped doing things. I just did them more intentionally and with limits now. And so it kept me focused on moving forward in my plan. And so I'm living in the day, not living for the day.
Oh, I love that. And one of the things that I have had as a habit is just tracking my spending even. So I have a little paper planner, and every time I would spend something, I just take a little note, write down the date and what I spent, where it was. And it was so funny. I cannot tell you how many times I've been at a grocery store or at a checkout somewhere, and someone will see me writing down what I'm spending and say, oh, wow, I never thought of writing down what I spent, and it's a huge difference just being aware of what you're spending. But
it is. That awareness can change things. And April, I'm going to give you and Eric a secret tip.
Okay.
If you've got a listener out there that has a certain area that they can't seem to control it, they spend more than they plan, I want them to do one thing. Go get a white envelope and write down the name of that category, whether it's groceries or eating out or whatever it is, and I want you to agree to put a dollar amount in that envelope every pay period and only spend that amount in cash.
Awesome.
And when that amount is gone, I want you to stop doing that activity.
Okay. And I love that.
It's a game changer, because here's the deal. You guys know as well as I do, in this society, in this day and age, we use debit cards. So we're swiping and tapping and squaring and all these things. People have lost the art of counting money.
Right.
And so now when we don't count money, we don't feel like we're spending. You see, the spending now comes when you reconcile your bank account. Right now, it's tapping and swiping and all this. And so I think people are losing the idea and control. But when you have cash in that envelope and you've got $50 in there and you're going to go to the store and you know what you're going to buy, when $50 is gone, that means you're not shopping anymore until you get paid again.
And I've read a couple reports just on that point that I think the numbers vary on who's reporting it, but people are more likely to spend 20 to 40% more when they're swiping plastic than when they're handing over cold, hard cash. So I think that idea of putting that money in an envelope with that category that's the most challenging, that's a great piece of advice.
Okay, so
it can be really helpful. Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit about the concept of getting a bigger shovel, though? This is something that we learned from Dave Ramsey.
Right? I was going to say, one of the things I heard him on a radio show years and years ago, and it's just stuck with me, is it's absolutely important to manage and control expenses. You want to know what you're spending, have every dollar have its job. But one of the phrases he used that in order to pay off debt, in order to get ahead, you also want to consider ways to increasing the size of your shovel, kind of the income or the ability to earn, to put money into the system to pay off this debt, to kind of invest for retirement and move ahead. So maybe just your thoughts for a moment on what that looks like or feels like.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and whenever you're trying to get serious about, advancing with your money, whether it's attacking debt or being just a little bit more intentional, there's a couple of things we have to do. We got to control our habits with what we're already spending. We have to have awareness of what it takes for us to live. And then the bigger shovel that's looking for ways to get additional income coming in.
Right.
Now, I say those other two things first, the awareness of what it takes and having control of what you're currently doing. Because if you bring in extra money and you're not working a plan, then you're just going to do more of what you've been doing. Okay.
Yes.
And so that's what you don't want to do. So if you're going to sacrifice, spend extra time away from the family to work harder to bring in extra money, let's make sure that this extra money is helping you to move forward. And so that might be gaining understanding of opportunities in your current job, identifying certain skills or certifications you may need to advance in your current career. It may be looking at taking on a second job. Maybe it's something you do in the evenings or on the weekend, but, or the opportunity to move to a better paying job with the right kinds of steps. All of those things are going to go back and they're going to require effort, focus, and attention to detail. And so that's a way I've seen hundreds of thousands of people take on extra jobs and send that extra money toward attacking debt to help them get out of debt faster.
Right. Well, I think all of those ideas are great recommendations. I think it's the mortal tendency or the human tendency to believe that we have to do the same things the same way. I have a job, I go to that job, I earn that money. But when you let your mind kind of open up, especially if you're having one of these dream dates or these conversations, allow yourself to think, okay, and how else could we increase the income as we are responsibly managing what we already have? Because I think when you let your mind open up a little bit to the possibilities, you'll probably creatively come up with 10 or more ideas, and then you can pursue the best one or two and really make some amazing things happen by increasing the size of that shovel.
You absolutely can. One example is I had a husband and wife, and she was a school teacher. He, by trade, was a blue-collar worker, but they were trying to brainstorm ways to earn extra money. His wife was a math teacher. She loved numbers. And he suggested to her, why don't you consider tutoring kids in our church or kids in the local area if they're struggling with math? And so literally she was like, I've never thought about that. She eventually started doing that a couple nights a week. Well, the fast forward, not only did it go well, it went so well that literally she's doing tutoring full time now.
Yep.
In her home, making 1.5 times what she was making with more free time now.
Right.
And so that just goes to show the value of knowing each other, working as a team, or if you're single or newly single, connecting with that accountability partner. And just like you wrote down ideas for your dreams, maybe you write down 3 to 5 ways you could earn some extra income in the next 6 months, and then start to look at it. And we tend to go negative. We automatically try to find reasons why something won't work. And I want you to encourage people to think like a scientist. Be willing to try a couple of things and let's see what happens.
Okay, I love that. And I have another question about investing. Just if you could start maybe pointing us in the right direction there, because let's say that there's someone who has, 6 to 12 months of funds already in the savings account. They've got money and it's sitting in the bank. And at this point, they're thinking, okay, well, I've got, some money in savings. I could either really focus on getting corn on sale, or I could figure out how to spend some time investing that money so it will work for me. But that feels a little bit overwhelming sometimes to know where to start investing, because you don't want to feel like you're gambling your money away and throwing it away into something that's going to tank. But what would you recommend as a safe way to start taking that money you're saving and have it work for you?
Well, I would say this. I would encourage them to sit down with an investment professional. They may already have someone out there that they're working with. If not, I want to encourage them to use people that we've vetted and we use. They're called SmartVestor Pros. They can go to my website, chrishogan360.com, click on SmartVestor Pro, put in their zip code, find someone close to them that they can just interview, find the one that fits for you. But I would say, as you start to look and you understand with investing, the 401ks and 403bs, which those things sound like military terms, but here's the deal. 401k means companies can provide their employees a way to save for their retirement. That's all it is. Okay. If you go to the IRS, you go up there and we went into their tax code. If we went all the way to area 401, section K, that's what that says. Companies can provide their employees a way to save for retirement. And so the 401k is a great option and a great tool because it's done pre-tax, meaning the money is pulled from your paycheck and put into the 401k without you having to do anything. So it happens automatically. It removes the human factor, and now that money starts to grow. There are 2 things you need to grow money. You need time, and you need more time, because time and compound interest will continue to grow that money for you while you continue to work hard and stay focused.
Awesome. Love that. And maybe, Chris, not to get too much into the details, but just maybe add an extra layer of comfort to our listening community. Maybe just explain briefly what it has done to vet kind of those financial professionals as they become recommended by you guys.
Absolutely. Well, as you all know, Dave has been in this business for 25 years, and he understands the value of having the right kind of advice from the right people. And so what we did here was begin to put together a system of professionals. We vet them based on their years of experience, how their customer satisfaction, and how they treat people. And so this is an area where we're constantly looking to find the right caliber of people. We have checks and balances in place to make sure these individuals are guiding people the way that Dave and I talk about. And so once we get the right group in, we keep them in there, and we're constantly looking to update to get things improved. So these are all people that have gone through a stringent process to be able to have the right licensing, the right kind of professional credentials, and the right kind of work ethic to be able to be a part of our endorsed local provider system, whether that's for real estate professionals, insurance professionals, tax professionals, or the investing professionals that are called SmartVestor Pros.
No, that sounds really helpful. And it sounds like, probably goes without saying, but that one of the other elements is that they definitely teach in consistency with principles that you and Dave and others inside the Dave Ramsey Group have been laying out. So they're definitely aligned with those principles of totally money making over and other things that Dave teaches.
They really do. And that's the thing that allows us to stay connected and understand exactly what's going on. Because if they bump into someone out there and their person is not teaching or talking about the things that Dave and I talk about, they let us know, and we're able to, check it out and get to the bottom of it and either fix it or remove that individual.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
So, okay, how do we end our dream date? Once we've dreamed and we're compromising and we're talking about how we can save or how we can earn or invest, then what do you do?
Well, I think the final step, like with anything, if you're married, is you've got to come to an agreement on the next steps. What we have to do is start to lay out, your dream. You now are very aware of your reality. Now we've got to gain agreement and understand what's the plan or the process of how we're going to put things into action. What are the action steps we're going to do? And that typically will look like we're going to agree to have a dream date. We're going to stay connected and communicate. We're going to understand that we've got a budget. We've got to know how much is coming in, what's going out, and we've got to make some changes and tweaks to that. We've got to get intentional and understand that debt is a threat to our dream. I mean, it is. Yeah. And so we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to call it anything else, but it's a threat because it's a thief. It steals from your income, which prevents you from growing your money. So we want to make a list of the debts you have, smallest to biggest, put them all down there, student loans, money owed to parents, whatever it is. And let's look at that and understand if we can attack this debt using the debt snowball, smallest to biggest, what it'll do is free up income for us to build up an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses and then start to invest 15% of our household income for our dreams.
And I love this. I think maybe to highlight agreeing on those next steps. It's agreeing on the vision, that bigger plan, or the major things you're working toward. But maybe it's then easier to break that little part of the plan into what are the next steps we'll take between now and our next dream date, for example. Over the next 1 or 2 months, here are the key factors we'll be working on. So you can kind of check in and assess how you're making progress and move in that direction.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I mean, you essentially have laid it out for them with this podcast. And so it is sit down and have that dream date. And then maybe a week later, have a follow-up. And then sit down and start to understand, hey, what are we looking at? What is our income? What's coming in? Where are we with our dream? What could we do, each of us, to come up with 5 ideas that you each could do to bring in extra money to attack the debt? And then what you'll see is now you're starting to work together closely on the things that matter most to you and your family. That is positive fuel and positive progress as you start to think and grow forward.
Well, and I think it really gives each of us a sense of power because I know a lot of people who don't want to open their bills and they don't want to think about it. And there's a lot of anxiety. And I know you'd mentioned people lose sleep over retirement, right? Over this fear of not having enough money. But I think that what's so exciting is to be able to jump onto this vision that you've painted so beautifully. And maybe just one final question for you. As you've done this for years and you're training and teaching and coaching, what is it that you see happening in people's lives that keeps you going? What changes have you seen people achieve, or what's kind of that feeling? Maybe you can articulate the vision a little bit more for us so that we can all picture ourselves being in that spot.
Well, I can tell you this, as people start to get more on the same page with their spouse or someone that's single or newly single, they start to connect with their accountability partner. Literally, I've seen this one thing really start to happen, and that one thing is what I'd call hope. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing people start to look at their situation much different. We've all had life happen. We've all had some setbacks happen to us. But here's what I found, you guys. A setback can be a setup for a comeback. And so what we have to do is understand that, yes, you've gone through some life, but you're not done yet. You're still breathing and you're still focused. And so now when you start to acknowledge, what can I do? Focus on the things you can do, not the things you don't have. And what that does is helps us stay rooted in the day where we don't miss opportunities anymore. We're staying focused and intentional on what we're doing, but more importantly, why it's so important to us.
That's beautiful.
I think it's great. I love what you said earlier. You're not stuck. You're just stopped or stalled.
That's right.
And I had a really good friend who said, people who inspire, who lead, and who mentor, really their biggest responsibility and goal is to give people hope. And so we really appreciate the time we've had talking with you, learning from you. And we hope that all the people in our community listening, will just take heart and realize that no matter where you are, no matter how bad or dark or difficult it might seem in the current situation, you're just stopped. You're not stuck. And as you just apply a little bit of energy to learning a few things more than you know now, or taking a few steps, even to just building a little bit more beyond $10,000 over the next year or two toward retirement, that puts you in a minority that we hope will become a majority. But everything can be done with these little steps, one step at a time.
It really can. And it's just like accomplishing anything else. And if everybody looks back and they understand they've achieved some things despite the odds, despite the current situation, if we can just control these three things, our attitude, our outlook, and our effort, those three things will allow us to be able to move forward in anything that we need and anything that we dream of.
Love that.
Thank you so much for being with us, Chris.
Oh, absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure. I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
Bye-bye.
I hope that you loved today's podcast. Thank you so much for being part of our Learn to Become community. Thank you for the amazing work that you are doing in your homes and families. We're going to have links to all the things that Chris talked about in today's podcast at learndobecome.com/episode 72. So go there to find more links and more information. And then I do encourage you, if you already have your Step Command Central in place, go to your routines list and create a routine that will remind you to check in with your spouse or with your partner or some accountability partner or your board of directors, where you can actually sit down and plan and be prepared for when you are going to retire. Or if you're already retired and you have children or grandchildren and you want them to be ready, forward the link to this podcast on. Our goal is not only to help you to have a clean desk and a clean house. Our goal is to help you to live your mission and to be able to live a life that's going to be incredible. So by the time we are all retired, we're in a really good spot. We have security, we have comfort, we have peace. We feel like, you know what, we've made these dreams, we've achieved them, and now we're here to help that next generation. Really fun. Have a great day. Remember, come to learndobecome.com/episode 72 for links to this podcast. And if you're new to Learn to Become and you want to learn about how to create your Step Command Central so you can feel organized and calm and have everything put together, then come to learndobecome.com/step. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon at Learn to Become.